About an hour or two ago, the Jets locked up Sauce Gardner to the biggest contract ever given to a corner. I had this thought yesterday too, but it wasn't as, I guess, an apple for an apple comparison because yesterday the Jets locked up Garrett Wilson, 4 years, 130. And whenever I saw that, I was like, "Oh man, that Nico Collins contract's looking better and better by the day." 3 years, a little under 73. But it's really an apples to orange comparison. I think when you compare Wilson's contract to Nico's contract, Nico did it much sooner than Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson was drafted a year after Nico Collins. Garrett Wilson was a first rounder. Nico Collins was not. I didn't feel like it was a like for a like enough to really bring it up. But it is a like for a like whenever you digest and dissect, I guess, the contract of Derek Stingley Jr. and Sauce Gardner, who at the time, we had the conversation, if the Texans are going to go corner, who should they go? And it was always, Stingley was usually the majority opinion. I was probably slightly more on the Sauce Gardner side because I had that Cincinnati bias. Shout out to the Big 12, who was American at the time. But talking today, I believe that Derek Stingley is the better football player. And Derek Stingley signed a contract earlier this offseason, 3 years, $90 million. Now, 89 of it was guaranteed. And today, Sauce Gardner signed a $120.4 million deal for 4 years, which pays him $30.1 million. A little bit less of a guarantee. But I think Stingley's a better player, and he's on a better contract than Sauce Gardner. When I saw the Sauce Gardner news, I was like, yep, this is another win for Nick Caserio.
No, that's exactly what I thought, too. I mean, I hadn't even thought about Garrett Wilson compared to Nico Collins. But when I saw the numbers come out on Sauce Gardner, because, look, I don't think there was any bones about it when you and I were talking about 1A, 1B, when those two guys were coming out. I thought of the two, take the guy that doesn't have the medical history. I was on the Sauce Gardner side. They didn't. They went with Stingley. Caserio at the time was very enamored with him. And after a great rookie season for Sauce, I think it has definitely tilted in the favor of Stingley between the two. But when I looked at the numbers, I was like, oh, my God, this is the anti-Jerry Jones. This is where Nick gets a feather in his cap because instead of being the guy that runs the ship or the owner in the case of Jerry Jones and the GM of just waiting and waiting and waiting, the more you wait, the more you're going to pay. And at the end of the day, when you look at the deal you got for Stingley, and at the time you knew that there were going to be others that were going to come along that were going to get more. But the way that you structured that, what you got him for, and then when you look at the guy that he was compared by everybody to coming out and the contract that the Jets are on the hook for, I think it's a massive win for Nick Caserio and the Texans.
I do too. He's a better player right now. Sauce has gone backwards a bit. I think Sauce was Stingley had the injuries in his first year, and Sauce was like an all-pro in his rookie season, and it was like, what a miss for Nick Caserio. But Stingley has come around. I really like the way that Caserio handles business with his either players or draft picks, really. Like he gets it done early, which to me early is the way to go. Like if you have to make the decision whether or not the player is going to be someone you want to extend. Once you make the decision that the player is somebody that you want to extend, it makes all the sense in the world to do it as quickly as possible. Nico does it early. All of these other wide receiver contracts pass him up. Derek Stingley reset the market. Stingley got $30 million a year. Patrick Surtain was $25 million. Like, they shattered the AAV for the highest paid corner, but going first to market, you save a little bit of money over Stingley or over Sauce Gardner. And then whenever new corners are going to want more money, obviously they're going to get more than $30 million a year. So I like that Caserio does that. Like, I don't love the decision to lock up Jalen Petrie, but again, if you're going to make the decision to lock a player up, do it early, and they did do it early with Jalen Petrie. And then you also look at what's going on with all these second-round draft picks. Cleveland and the Texans are the only two teams that have signed their second-round draft picks. Cleveland signed the first pick of the second round before the Texans signed Higgins. And then the Texans, shortly after, gave Higgins the guaranteed money as well. And literally no other second-round draft pick is signed. So, like, I like that Caserio takes care of his players. Hey, guaranteed money, here you go. 89 of the $90 million for Derek Stingley is guaranteed money. So I just like the way that he conducts business on that front.
Well, I mean, I think that when you look at it, too, because the challenges that lay ahead are going to be a key thing, too, because you're looking at CJ and you're looking at Will, and they're coming up. And I think that you're going to have to hope, and I think it's pretty much a given that you would think that he's going to do the same thing with those two because the contracts following after are going to do the same thing. And now we're not talking about the difference of, a couple million here and there, it's going to be bigger money because those guys are premier players at the top of their game as well. And so the Stingley one is kind of one to bank off of and base off of to say, hey, look, it's those kind of moves. It's some of the other moves too. It's kind of like the extensions here or there that a little, not necessarily that they go completely under the radar, but you made sure that you gave an extension to Danielle Hunter. You're doing some things kind of to where you realize whether you say Nick's playing chess and they're playing checkers or not, even with the second round pick, he doesn't care what the rest of the league thinks. He thinks that I've got a really, really good football player that I'm not going to have to worry about for the length of his contract. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of this now, get him off my plate, get him on the books, and just move on to the next pick and whatever I have to do. If it sets a dangerous precedent for the rest of the league, that's their problem to deal with. And obviously going forward, it's going to be something that you have to watch but you would think in the second round, you're going to have players that are going to be on your roster. It's not like, are you drafting someone that you're going to have to in a year or two go, I'm not sure. Hopefully that's never going to be the case with the Texans. You don't know how long. It seems like once the precedence is set, it's tough to go backwards. But whether the rest of the league is upset at him or not, I really could care less because he got the guy that he wanted and locked him down.
And there's going to be risk to doing it the way Nick Caserio has done it. I think we've been, or at least I'll speak for myself, I've been a little nitpicky at times because, you have to set the top of the market for every single guy that comes up for a contract. But kind of like we talk about when it comes to the Astros and some of the guys they've tried to re-sign early, I'd rather Caserio err on this side of it where maybe he's a little early to the market, but he gets that value savings. And sometimes he's going to miss because he doesn't have enough tape on a guy to really know if he's going to be that guy. But I'd rather have that than the other side of it where you're late, kind of like the Cowboys have done forever, like the Jets have just done, and now you're paying even more. The contracts on waiting are a bigger penalty than missing for the guys you're early on, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, the Jalen Petrie extension is the only one that I've been on the fence about, and I don't think that that's just a crazy miss. Jalen Petrie still has value. Jalen Petrie's still a good player. And I also think a big reason why they wanted to keep Jalen Petrie in-house is because Jalen Petrie's such a good example of the culture. Which, do you pay a little bit of a premium for a guy who is great in the locker room? I think that that's fair, especially for a program like the Texans that want to be built on that culture and that swarm mentality. So, no, I really like the way that Caserio handles extensions, handles taking care of the player. I also think that there is a benefit of having the reputation around the league that you're player friendly, that you're going to take care of the player, that if you earn an extension, you're going to get an extension done fairly, top of the market, and fast. I think it's good to have that reputation. I think that carries value and weight as well.
I think it's twofold, Jeremy. I think from the points that you just mentioned, I think even from the second round prospect, when you think of all these guys that are now trying to get their contracts done, I think it's 30 of the 32 are still unsigned. But when you look at the second round picks, if you're the agents that are out there, you're like, I don't want to spend a ton of time trying to negotiate my second round picks contract. I want to have a guy like Nick Caserio that saw value, drafted my guy because that's the guy that brought him value, locked him down, and now we both can move on because these guys are busy. They've got other things that they want to do too, and this was just another reason why agents love, as to your point, love to deal with guys that are no BS, just let's get it done, cut and dried. And the thing is, from a Texans perspective, and Brian, you're right, you do down the line, you're going to have to be careful and watch out, and you're going to have to see how this plays out. But at the same time, when you look at this from the standpoint of doing this now versus later, it's the anti-Jerry Jones that I keep going back to, because you're not screwing the player at the time, no matter how long that window is. And I think that, with Petrie, it was like a day before the Bears made somebody else the highest paid, slot corner in the league. So what? But you gave him top money. It's not like you're doing a Jordan deal, which is highly team friendly for more years, and he's actually, giving up money. You're taking care of the player, and at the same time, you're doing it in such a way that, as you talked about, other contracts are coming in. Other guys are going to be the next highest paid corner in the league or the next highest paid, whatever position you play in the league. The fact is that when you look at that you really won't know how much you're saving until you see how that steamroll effect takes shape in the league. And you go, man, if we'd have waited, we'd be paying so-and-so this many more million per year for 3 or 4 years. And we saved this amount of money. That's where you have to realize you're not screwing the player, but you're really helping the franchise.